Welcome to our call, guys, our mastermind call. Very excited for today's call. Hopefully you guys saw my homework assignment that I posted on the page and I messaged to you to go check it out. We are going to be talking about that all today. The first round of mastermind calls was very interesting. I have them all week, and the same theme comes out every single time. And as far as what's not working, for the most part. And it has to do with, how do I get people to work? How do I find people who want to work the business? How can I take those people on my team and get them to work? That same cycle. And this past week, I just got back 2 days ago. I went out to Baltimore, Maryland, and Delaware, and I did my one-on-ones, and it's the exact same conversation over and over again of, I can work, but I need my team to work. How can I get my team to work? Or how can I find more people like me? And the people I sign up suck, and all that kind of same stuff. I mean, yeah, you're all understanding, and it's fascinating to me. And so I'm still a little uncertain how I want this mastermind group to go. I don't know if I want it to be like at one topic, just different areas of that topic, or if we need to jump from topic to topic. And that's why I'm going to see how this one goes, because I want to make sure we talk about us and how we can be better leaders, because that's what it comes down to, is how can we become better leaders? How can we influence people better? How can we get people to do hard things? Because what we're asking them to do is incredibly difficult. And so we all have had people who have influenced us, who have helped shape us into who we are today, for good or for bad. Unfortunately, there are those negative people who have influenced, who have had a bad effect on us. But we've also had those people who we look up to, this can be a family member, this can be a teacher, this can be somebody a roommate, college roommate. It doesn't matter to me, but it's somebody who you look up to, somebody who helped you get through some rough times, somebody who has shaped you into who you are today. That's what we're going to talk about. We have a great number of people on today. And so we're going to do the same thing, go around the horn. I want you guys to simply talk about this individual, or I guess individuals, but let's do maybe one individual who has had a great effect on you for good. And I want you to explain why. I want you to tell us what they did to shape you into who you are. Maybe some of their personality traits, maybe some of the habits, the attributes this individual has, and that's it. And then I'm going to wrap it up at the end. But I want you to simply talk about that individual, if it's okay with you. I brought a box of tissues. I don't have tissues. I brought Purell. That's all I have for you is Purell. If you need it, I have it here for you. You might have to get your own tissue if that's what you want. But Rachel, you popped up first on my screen. Let's have you go first about this individual who has shaped you into who you are today.
Can you hear me? Okay. So the person that kind of has shaped me to the person I am today, and one thing that they did that really stood out to me is, honestly, it seems so simple, but just believed in me. And it's ironically, it's my upline, a complete stranger at the time who offered me this solution of help when I needed it so badly. She didn't know about my past. Excuse me. I was choking, not crying. She didn't know about my past. Hold on, I have water. She didn't know anything about my history. She didn't have that to judge me or base my future off of. And she completely just believed in me and gave that belief back into me when I needed it the most. And she things that she does is she kind of just paves the path for me. What she accomplishes, that's stuff that I look up to so much, to say like, oh, if she did it, then I can do it. What's the difference between us? And that's something that I also try to bring back to my team, is teaching or letting my coaches know that I believe in them so much and wholeheartedly that they can accomplish absolutely anything that they want to accomplish with that level of belief. So that's kind of.
So let me ask you a question, and we're learning as we're going. And everybody on this call, if you have questions, please feel free to jump in. But Rachel, quickly, what did your upline do to show that she believed in you?
She allowed me to be me, and not try to mold me into some person that she thought I should be. She told me to embrace my imperfections, embrace my goofy personality, and just to be myself. And I really appreciated that, because the person I was before, I always felt like I needed to fit into this mold of just person. We have all of that social media that does a great job, or the media in general does a great job of how we feel like we should be. And so by her just kind of sharing with me, like, just be yourself. People are going to relate to you. People are going to be able to connect to you for not being able to speak properly, or constantly making up my own words when I talk, and being obsessed with my dogs. Like, people can relate to that about me. And so she allowed me to be the silly person that I am.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Anybody have thoughts or questions in regards to that for Rachel? I hope you're taking notes. Let's take notes. I am. So number one, what I've written down is she believed in you and allowed you to be yourself rather than molding you into who she thinks you should be, allowing you to have that freedom. I like that attribute. I like that. $8 fruit bowl lady, you're up.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to try to not be emotional with mine. I'm a little emotional today. I'm having some family sadness going on, but my dad made me who I am today. My parents got divorced when I was a baby. Sorry, I'm really emotional today. So it's not this, it's making me emotional. My parents got divorced when I was a baby, and my mom actually kidnapped my brother and me. My dad didn't know where we were. And he was young, he was I think he was 28 or 29, and he could have totally just let us go with our mom and just started over, as a man back in the 80s, he could have just, found a new family, whatever, but he fought tooth and nail. He found us, he hired a private detective, he got us, he brought us home, and he kept us safe and strong. And it was really hard growing up, but he fought for us, and he fought for joint custody because they wanted to give us to my mom because she's the mother, and even though she was a crazy lunatic, he fought for us, and he never gave up on us, and pushed us to be strong people. And my brother and I, are now we have our own kids, and he's just made us who we are. Does that make sense? Because I'm really emotional today.
Yeah, no, I get it. So try to define that into certain attributes. Why? I mean, what a phenomenal story. I had no idea about that. So try to bring it down, boil it down in just a couple.
So he really taught us to never give up. He taught us to fight for what's right. He taught us to believe in ourselves and stand up for ourselves and to be honest. And he did always teach us that even if, someone may not be happy hearing something, it's better to be honest than to, not tell the truth or beat around the bush, which I think comes to play a lot with talking to your coaches and stuff, to be honest with them and teach them to be honest with you and honest with themselves. And my dad just taught me to keep pushing along and believe in yourself, you know, and that anything can happen, and just be a strong adult.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. And those are some great things to, as far as describing him. And
I usually don't cry about this anymore. I used to cry about this, but I don't. I'm having family problems, but so.
Okay. Purell, do you need some?
I could use some Purell.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thanks for being vulnerable. I hope you guys do feel like you can be vulnerable here. This is how we grow. This is where we learn. This is where we can become better people. And if you're not, to your point, Lindsay, if we're not being honest with ourselves, if we're not putting ourselves out there, if we're withholding, then we're withholding what could be as well. Thank you for sharing that. All right, Jessica, let's have you go next.
Okay, so I have like 3 things of Elmo going on. So if there's background noise, I apologize. I'm stuffing food down her face and playing Elmo on every device possible to get through the call. So I'm similar to Lindsay in that as soon as you put this up, the first person that comes to my mind is my father. My dad was the youngest of 10 children, and nothing was given to him. He had to work for every single thing he wanted or needed. And, you know, for me, we never knew we struggled growing up. One thing he made sure was that we always felt that we were the wealthiest family around, even though we had to work like 4 or 5 jobs. And I had no idea. You know, I had no idea I was in hand-me-downs. I had no idea that I didn't have the other things that other kids had. And I didn't know it wasn't normal for your father to only see you for a few minutes before you to go to a second and third job. He was really the hardest working person and still is to this day. And I think that was one of the things he always instilled in us is nothing is given to you. You have to work for whatever it is that you want. And if you decide that you want something, there's nothing that stops you from getting it. But the only thing that can prevent you from achieving anything is yourself. So, you know, I think that's one of the biggest lessons he's ever instilled in us. He was always there for us, no matter what. No matter what choices my brother made growing up that was not so great, you know, it was unconditional love no matter what, and 110% support. You know, in between all of those jobs, he made it a way to get to any games we were playing, you know, any shows that were going on, always with a big bouquet of flowers. So he was our #1 supporter, and worked as hard as he possibly could to get us anything that we felt we needed. So, without getting emotional, because it's very easy to get emotional about your father, you know, that's something that I think that I've carried through with myself. Is the one thing I pride myself in is my work ethic. I know that I can work harder than the person next to me to get to where I want to be, if that makes sense.
Okay. So how do you flip that around and turn that into apply that to your team and the people you work with?
Applying it into my team, I think by leading by example and showing them the work that it does take, and to not let them assume that any of this has come easily for me. You know, because some of my newer coaches or some of my coaches who have been with me for a while, they keep saying, I want to be where you are in this business. And I tell them, well, you can, that's up to you. That's completely your choice. I can show you the way and I can help you get there. But the work that you have to put in and the work that happens behind the Facebook posts and the fancy things, you know, that's the part that's on you. So as hard as you want to work to get this business where you want it to be, I can show you what to do. But in the end, it has to be the effort on your part.
I like that. Thank you for sharing. Any questions, guys, for Jess?
Can you hear Elmo?
It's all right. Elmo did great. Only kept her busy, so thank you. Jenna, you're up next.
Hey guys, so my dad is a big part of my story, but today I'm actually going to talk about my mom. I don't talk about her enough, and she deserves way more credit for shaping me into who I am today for so many different reasons. But growing up, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, so she sacrificed, everything for my brothers and myself. She sacrificed her career, her free time, just like carting us around everywhere, doing everything around the house. And she's just like, when I think of my mom, I just think of like the most badass human being ever. Like, she just came over to my house and brought like her toolkit to help me hang stuff on the wall. She just like does it all. So I think that she has really taught me that, number one, about work ethic, because she kind of expected a certain level of that in our house. But a big moment in my life that kind of changed my direction and who I wanted to be and what I wanted out of my life is when my parents got divorced, and she had to kind of figure things out about what she was going to do financially. So she had to go back to school. She had to go and find a job. So I loved, like, that was when I was in probably like later high school years. So for me, I had my mom around, the majority of my life growing up, and I loved having her a part of my life, like being there after school, cooking dinners for us, taking me to my games. And I always like wanted to achieve that in my life, but I also realized like I didn't want to fully give up my independence financially either. So I was very driven through school and through getting a career. And once I started to get into that career, I was like missing that element of like that concept of what am I going to do one day when I have a family? And I knew that I couldn't really achieve that in the advertising world that I was in, that work-life balance. So she, without her really knowing it, inspired me to kind of like go full force with this business, because I realized that I could achieve that work-life balance now and in the future when I do have a family one day. And that's kind of where that is rooted from. And basically a message that, like, how I can apply this to my team is that, your life may have taken you down one path, but there's no reason why you can't work hard and take another path, and change directions like my mom had to do kind of, later in her life that she probably wasn't expecting to do. So that's how I would apply it to the business and to my team.
Perfect. I love that. I love that you applied it. I love telling it. I had no idea. I hear so much about your dad, and I have so much respect for who your dad is and the things that you do for him. But I haven't heard much about your mom, and I really appreciate you sharing that. And what a great thing to talk about how, you create your own path. Things happen to you, but you don't have to accept those things. You can go out and make your own and make it work. And I love that she has her own toolkit and brings it over. That's awesome. That's great. All right. Laura, you're up next.
Sorry, I have a neighbor child over who's munching away. So I had to choose, but I'm going to pick my mom also to speak about. And my mom comes from a background of not really having much and not really being shown I guess, what opportunities were available to her. So she kind of took that initiative on her own and ran with it. And she was a teacher, and both of my parents worked. So we really kind of were molded by other people. But at the same time, my mom was just a driven individual and didn't want to stay home either. And from that, she's excelled in what she's done. She's, gone after certification. She's gotten her master's. She's started her doctorate, and all of these things to be the best at her skill and her craft in education. And that's Miles. That's just something that I've always admired, that not that she's ever settling, but that there's always something more to be achieved. And that can be personally, that can be in your work, that there's no limit to that. And I just admire that she has that drive to be the best at what she loves. And obviously she loves being a mom, but she just knows that there's so much more out there for at least kids who just don't have the things that we had as kids. So she just feels empowered and passionate to that. And I just admire that quality that she has. So I take, that there's always something to be learned. There's always more that can be done, and that you shouldn't ever stop pursuing those things. So that's what I've kind of taken away.
That's great. And then I guess applying to your team, it sounds like maybe finish up with that as those are the lessons that you learned. So how do you pass that along to your team?
I think by example and, the teaching mindset of there's always something more to be learned, whether it's from me as your coach or just out there. Like, you have that responsibility to yourself to go out and kind of figure out a lot of stuff too. It's not just a secret for me. It's out there for you also. So I do a lot of pushing back. And like I talked, I think 2 weeks ago, like really digging into themselves what they want and then exploring that avenue. It's limitless. So.
Yeah, very interesting. This has taken a whole different direction, and I'm thrilled it is. You guys are all doing so well with the application part. We're moving right along. Just do 2 more. Ms. Lewis, let's have you go next.
Hi, guys. So I actually chose my nurse mentor from when I was in nursing school, and her name is Betty, Betty the nurse. And yeah, so cliche, but she was amazing. And I originally met her because I did an internship on my own outside of school and worked with her as a nurse intern with many other nurses in the floor. And then when it came time for me to do my focused rotation in my specialty in labor and delivery, I asked to have her. And she actually only had a diploma degree, whereas I was a bachelor's degree student. And technically she wasn't supposed to be my mentor because the university had a rule that your mentor had to have the same education level that you did. But I knew that she was the person that I wanted to work with because I'd worked with her all summer with a group of other nurses. And I always just saw her as like my vision of what I wanted to be when I became a proficient nurse. So the reasons that she came to my, when you asked this question, I thought, oh gosh, of course, like I thought of my upline coach and thought of other people in my life. But she really taught me so much because she's someone I didn't know at all. And she really shaped so much of what I did professionally for the rest of my career and still how I show up as a coach. So she set the example. She always explained why she did things. She never just did things haphazardly. When she was teaching me, she always explained why it was important and why she had chosen to do it this way. Because in nursing, there's a million different ways you can do a lot of different things. And she would explain why, in particular, she chose this particular route. And she never cut corners. If we would walk into a room after the previous shift and she would see that they had done I'll never forget, she had a certain way that people would do IVs, which was cutting a corner, which could increase the risk for infection. But probably, a good 50% of nurses out there would do it because they just didn't want to bother getting the extra piece that you needed to properly close it off. And every time we went in, she would change out the whole thing and put a whole new setup up. Because she was an ICU nurse and it took her 12 years to get to labor and delivery. And she had a little bit more of a background in what those types of infections could look like. And she took it so seriously that she couldn't live with herself if she went through and hooked that person back up to the IV and ended up getting an infection. She was so consistent. She always did things the same way as long as it made, she had systems. And she taught me the importance of systems so that you don't miss a step. And, I use systems in getting my new challengers started and getting my new coaches started so that there's consistency in the information that people are getting. And so that I know the information they're getting and what the expectations should be if they are truly looking through the information that they're receiving. She persevered. Her husband was a cop that worked crazy shifts. She had 4 kids at home. And at that time, they were all like under the age of 9. And she always showed up. She always showed up. Nobody ever heard an excuse from her. She would have nights where she had 2 to 3 hours sleep, and then she'd come in at 3 a.m. and she would work a 12-hour shift until 3 p.m. so she could be home with her kids. So she sacrificed, and she never complained about it. She knew that's what she wanted to do, and I just always looked up to that, because I would see people calling in sick or looking to change this shift or that shift for some reason, and it was just them being selfish and putting themselves first, and she was showing what it's like to be part of a team. And she also showed the importance of getting to know, a lot of day shift nurses can be cliquey and night shift nurses, and she liked to overlap. It showed me the importance of understanding the people that you are following and coming in after them. Something that she did, and this might sound small, but she made me feel included when I worked with her, and it's so silly. She would buy me a bagel. Every day that she knew I was coming in with her, she would stop and get a sour cream bagel from Dunkin' Donuts, and they don't make those anymore, and they really should, because they're delicious. And it just made me feel part of the team. And actually, when I was thinking about this homework that you gave us, I thought about how important that was to me, because it just made me feel special, and that she was thinking of me outside of just me showing up and like, how can I be her lackey today? It wasn't what am I doing for her? It was her making me just feel included. And at the end of the day, she always advocated for what was right, which meant going up against physicians. It meant sometimes disagreeing with other nurses. And she always stood on the side of what was right and the facts. And that's something that has also always stuck by me. So Nurse Betty for the win.
Go Nurse Betty. Well, that is really, really cool to hear. Thank you so much for sharing that. That goes along perfectly with what we're doing and who we look up to. And the reasons why are so small, but they had a huge impact on you. And I love Nurse Betty now too.
I actually found her on Facebook this morning. I was like, I wonder what happened to her. And I found her. We had a mutual friend, because I only worked with her when I was an intern, and then we moved away.
Wow.
So I found her and popped her a friend request. So I also sent her a little thank you message and told her we were doing this.
So many different lessons come out of that. Thank you. All right, Lisa, let's have you wrap it up here.
Hi. I didn't have a good upbringing, and it was in my mid-20s when I met a woman who was my boss. And just reflecting on why she helped shape me into who I am today, it's really about how she helped me to change how I felt about myself. She was able to be present with me, and I really felt that I was seen, heard, and valued. So I felt that whenever we would have a meeting with each other, or we would review my next phase for work, she was just never doing anything else except just being completely present with me. And I think that really helped me to feel like I was being seen and that I was valued. And she was the first person who really did that for me. She would always focus on what I was doing right, and she would give me more of those types of things to do and help to build my confidence, because at the time, at that age especially, I didn't have much confidence. But I was thinking about how she would do it, because I don't have any exact examples, but she would build upon things a little bit at a time. So she would give me, she actually, I went far in the company. I went from an entry level to a high level under her. And she would give me a little bit to do at a time and build my confidence one, brick layer at a time. And she was there with me the whole time, encouraging me. And because she was so focused on what I was doing right, that I felt safe to be able to share with her what my struggles were. So she really created a safety in the relationship. And actually, for the longest time, I still refer to her as my second mom, you know, because I moved from Massachusetts all the way to Seattle after college, and she just took me under her wing, and she made me feel like I could do anything. And she was the first person in my life who could see what I can achieve before I could see it. And she was really great at holding that vision of, I guess it's not so much as settling for the small things and reaching for the big things. It was more about, like I started with, how I felt about myself. It was a feeling that she was able to instill in me that I can accomplish them. It wasn't just like, here's the things that you need to do to get there. It was how you need to feel about yourself in order to get there. And that had a lot to do with, it was the first time that spirituality was introduced in my life. So, and she helped me to see that my negative thinking was creating negative experiences for me. And she helped me to change that self-talk that I had from negative to positive. And it was the first time that someone had introduced that to me. And I've spent the last 20-something years building upon that, so that the inner critic that I had within me became softer. And so when we feel that way about ourselves, we can achieve so much more.
Perfect. I really appreciate you saying that. And I'm so glad I ended with you, because that's exactly where I want to head with this now. So first off, thank you so much for sharing, guys. I know these are maybe some tender moments here, a little, but what it should hopefully have done for you is to reflect back and really pin down, why do I look up to this person? Why do I have so much respect? Why would I make sacrifices for them? And so if you took notes, as I did, I took notes, and then I capitalized certain notes. Let me tell you what I've capitalized listening to you guys. The things that really stood out to me, the reason why you look up to this individual is because they had belief in you. God, man, if we could just stop right there, that would be enough. They believed in you. They had your support, and they gave you 100% unconditional love. They sacrificed on your behalf. You felt valued. And maybe one that wasn't necessarily said, but it just kept coming out. There was an underlying trust. You guys trusted these individuals. And that is something that isn't easily earned. So if you wrote similar notes, and there was a fairly consistent theme throughout all of your reasons as to why you looked up to these individuals, my guess is the theme would continue on outside of this group into everybody. The people that everyone look up to probably fall within these same categories. And because now you have that relationship with this individual, if it was your boss, you worked for them. If it was your parent, you had that good relationship with them. I didn't even share mine. Let me quickly share mine. Mine is my father as well. A lot of you mentioned your fathers. It didn't always have, I had a great relationship with him throughout my whole life. But so we weren't allowed to, in our family, to date until we were 16 years old. That's kind of it's fun. You guys can send notes to each other, back and forth, cutie little timid stuff. But you can't date until you're 16. And so I turned 16, and gosh dang it, I started dating. I was going to make sure to get some dates in. And for whatever reason, my dad got nervous about me dating, simply meaning I was getting into my dates more than maybe I should have. I'm not confessing here. Everything was good. We stayed clean. Hands in the air, feet on the ground, kind of a good dating type thing. But we had so many times we had talks. Oh, I hated talk. Son, let's have a talk. Oh, Dad. So I tried to, anytime that I could avoid being alone with him, I'm like, oh, crap, this is going to turn to a talk. So I heard he left the room or whatever. But we had plenty of talks. And our level of trust for one another became stronger and stronger because of these talks. It was simply saying, in the teenage mind, this makes sense. I'll give you privileges if you simply just follow these rules. If you obey, I'll let you go do stuff. But as soon as I start seeing that I'm losing your trust, then I'm going to have to start pulling in the reins. And so we continue today have a very deep level of trust. And hallelujah, everything went great. I had a great dating life. I actually dated my wife when I was 16. We dated throughout, on and off. And then, by golly, she was still single when I got back from my LDS mission, and got married at age 21 and happily married 14 years later. But I'm grateful that even though I fought those stupid talks and didn't want to, I just wanted to go do what I wanted to do. He had a better vision for me, and we had that deep level of trust. So that's my story. Sorry to throw that in really quick. So if these are the attributes that we respect and have for the person above us, time to do the old inner reflection. How do you lead people? I'm not looking for answers. Don't pipe in here. Are you leading the same way that you like to be led? And I'm not, you could be like, yeah, I have somebody who pushes me for numbers, so I'm going to push for no. Numbers get pushed aside right now. I'm talking about long-term, deep relationships that are long-lasting, that you have changed an individual's life for the better. And it's not because of how many challenge packs they've sold. It has nothing to do with it. This is helping them become better at who they are. So are you that person? Or are there ways to improve how you lead individuals? And if there are, then let's focus on those. That's what I wanted to draw out today. Was so many times we have so much respect and love for these people who have shaped us into who we are today, but maybe we're not leading that same way. And it's very difficult to lead, I understand, have that same deep relationship with every single person you bring onto your team. I understand that, but that's not what I'm saying here. But what I am saying is that we can, the underlying themes are belief, it's trust, it's having that relationship, it's sacrifice, it's all of those things on their behalf. Show interest in their life. I learned so much. I talk to you guys on a regular basis, and I learn things about you I've never known before, and I love that. I feel like our relationship is now more cemented than ever before because we're able to share these things. We need to, I don't know, maybe you guys can start doing this kind of the same similar thing every now and then with your team, so that people can feel connected with one another, so that they can see it's not just about SC points, it's not just about elite, it's not just about making money, it's about changing each other's lives. And that is something that is so much more rewarding than any paycheck we could ever give you. That's who we are. That's why you guys are still around. It is so much easier to go out and sell lipstick. The new shampoo. I haven't heard over the weekend. I heard there's a new shampoo thing. It's not like, oh, you're out of shampoo. Here you go. Here's another bottle. I did not just change your life. I just gave you another bottle of shampoo. Your hair is super shiny. Congratulations. There you go. It has nothing to do with I've changed your life. It's so much easier to do that. So why are you still here? Because of the deep belief in being able to change people, and the highs you get when somebody messages you late at night, tears in their eyes, saying, oh my gosh, thank you for what you've done. you know, I read a message the other day where the husband actually reached out to the coach and said, I finally have my wife back. Thank you. It's not a transaction anymore. It's an interaction. So while we focus so much on the today, the now, I got to earn more money, I got to get more successful points, I get that. And we'll continue to talk about how to improve that. But if you want people on your team to move, there's got to be this underlying theme of a foundation of belief, of trust, of relationships before anything else happens. Otherwise, it's just a transaction. And people will leave transactions at the blink of an eye, and that's what's been happening. We need to have interactions. All right, our time, I'm 4 minutes over. We need to call. I told you guys we do 40-minute calls. Thank you so much for sharing. This was wonderful. Continue. You guys have done such a great job on our group page. Continue sharing. Continue asking. Have surveys. Let's help each other out. Let's help each other become better for this. Great job. So grateful for you guys sharing. Can't wait to hold our call again in 2 weeks. We'll come up. I'll give you another homework assignment, and we'll see you then. Thanks, guys.